Hey guys, it's Trina and I've got some creepy book recommendations for you today. This is part of the monthly recommendations group that was created by Kayla Rain and myself, and I'll have a link to the group down below if you want to join. It's really fun. We have a topic each month and everybody recommends books that fit that topic, and being October, this month we are recommending creepy reads. So I've got 6 books to recommend to you guys today, and the first 3 are more mildly creepy. I wanted to put them in here for variety because I would genuinely recommend them for this time of year, and the last 3 books in this video are books that have given me nightmares. Enough of this preamble, let's just get into the book recommendation. If you like graphic novels, I would highly recommend Through the Woods by Emily Carroll. This is a collection of 5 thriller horror short stories. Now personally, I didn't find all of the stories to be that creepy. Like, they're very subtle, but one of the stories in this book was pretty chilling, and the creepiness is really largely due to the illustrations. It was like I would be reading this story and turn the page and there would be this just giant like ghoul figure staring at me. So if you're looking for something that's really quick to get through and that's illustrated, if you like more visual creepiness, definitely check out this book. If you like classic literature and YA books, I would recommend The Madman's Daughter by Megan Shepherd. It's a retelling of The Island of Dr. Moreau, which is a classic, and it really keeps that same gothic vibe alive. It is historical, and it's about our main character whose father has been outcast from society because there are all these rumors that he was doing experiments on animals, and she one day finds out where he is hiding and she goes to track him down and reunite with him, and he is on this island, and she discovers that all the inhabitants of this island are just a little bit weird. I read this book last October. I picked it up because I wanted a creepy read, and it fit the bill perfectly. It just was exactly the feeling that I wanted. It wasn't too horrific, but it was just deliciously creepy. Next, if you like historical paranormal fiction, I would recommend The Diviners by Libba Bray. I know a lot of people have heard of this book and want to read this book, but not so many have actually read it. But it is so perfect for this time of year. If you're thinking about reading it, I would highly encourage you to pick it up now, this month, if you can get your hands on it. It's set in the 1920s in New York. It's about a main character who's from a small hometown, and she has this ability that sometimes when she touches an item, she has visions about where that item has been, and her family basically outcasts her, sends her to live in New York with one of her family members, and she finds herself getting caught up in a crime investigation of this string of murders, and her power is actually useful because she can touch one of the items of the victims and kind of see the last few moments of the victim's life. There is a small portion of the book that deals with automatons, and I think that if you liked the clockwork machinery aspect to the infernal devices, you would really enjoy that part too. It is kind of on the dark side, but I didn't find it was too dark, but it does kind of deal with the occult, like visions and rituals, and there's a demon. I really enjoyed this book, and it is just a great time of year to pick it up. So now I will move in to the books that personally have given me nightmares. If you are looking for a children's story to maybe read to your kids during this time of year, I want to talk about one that really, I actually wouldn't suggest reading it to your kids because it scarred me for life when I was like a tender little 5 or 6-year-old kid. I'm 30 and I still just don't even want to think about this book. It was that bad to me. But if you're an adult who likes children's stories, maybe you could check it out. But it's called TAILYPO. I'm not sure if you can find it as its own book or if it's part of a collection. I don't even want to research it because I'm still so terrified of this book. But it's about a creature, and I don't want to talk about it. When I was in elementary school, every year during Halloween time, we would go to the library and our librarian would read scary kid stories to us. And she read the same stories to us every year. And the first time I heard this story, I was so freaked out by it that I just sat there crying. And so the next year, when it was time to go read the story, I would find an excuse to like leave and go to the bathroom because I literally was sitting in the library in a little kindergartner ball crying my eyes out because this story was just so freaky. I'm recommending it only because it was really creepy. It did really give me nightmares, but I'm sure if you read it now as an adult, you will just laugh at me and my little traumatic childhood experience, because I'm sure it's not even that bad, but back then it terrified me and I still just can't even think about it without Next, if you like adult literature that is kind of psychological thrillers and about really creepy fairies, I would recommend Don't Breathe a Word by Jennifer McMahon. I had to read this book during the day with all the windows open and all the lights on. It is about a girl who went missing as a child, and in the small town that they live in, there's this legend about like a fairy king, and there's a magical door that leads to the fairy realm, and she thinks she's gonna find the door, and then one day she goes missing. So the question is, did she get kidnapped or did she find her way into the fairy realm? And then it's about 15 years later when her brother is an adult and he's got a new girlfriend, and they start having these really weird encounters that all seem to trace back to his sister's disappearance. And there are these scenes, just the way that it's described was really freaking me out. It made me fear falling asleep at night. I remember that one time when I was reading this book, my husband had an overnight job at the time, so it was nighttime, he was gone, and I heard this really loud clash in our backyard, which is a wooded area, and I freaked out so bad. I was terrified, and I had to call my husband and said, you gotta come home, you gotta check, there's a fairy trying to get into the house. And it just turned out that the wind had knocked over a patio chair. I have recommended this book to friends before, saying that it's creepy, and they didn't find it as creepy as I did, but for me, I was really creeped out. And the book also deals with a lot of psychological issues because you don't know if the fairies are real, so the psychological thriller part was really interesting and twisted as well. And I think the great part about this book is that when you finish it, you still don't really know what was true. But I just really look back at this book as an amazing reading experience because I did, in hindsight, love the chills that it gave me, but creepiness. And lastly, if you like sci-fi or YA, and particularly if you liked The Martian by Andy Weir, I would recommend 172 Hours on the Moon by Johan Harstad. If you guys are doing the Pop Sugar Challenge, it's a book that was originally written in another language, so you can check that off as well. This is a sci-fi story about NASA needs to kind of reboot its public image, so they do a random worldwide lottery and they choose 3 teenagers to send up to the moon, and they reveal to the public that there's been this moon base up there all along, and they're getting the teenagers to go up there and have like this hands-on educational experience, and they go with trained astronauts, of course. But when they all get up there, they realize that there is a reason this moon base has been abandoned all this time, and some really freaky stuff starts happening. And this is one that I knew when I picked it up, I don't want to read this at night because space in general just really terrifies me, but I love it because it gives me those chills, you know. So I was planning not to read this at night, but I got so gripped that I stayed up all night long to finish this book, and the moon is shining in my window, which was terrifying me doubly because this takes place on the moon, and just the ending of the book, I still think about it. I would definitely recommend this book. This was also one that I read last October, and it was exactly what I was looking for. So very chilling, very creepy, and just a wonderful reading experience. I hope that you enjoyed my creepy book recommendations. I'm sure that some people who have read some of these would totally disagree with me and be like, you're just a wimp. Yes, I know, I am a wimp. I would love to hear from you guys. Let me know what the creepiest book you've ever read is down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to check out the group, and I will see you guys in the comments. Bye!